Morning. My name is Elad. I'm the latest addition to the Swarm team. Started them a couple of months ago. And I'm going to talk about the Swarm APIs today. Yeah, a little bit about myself is I come from, in the last couple of years, from more corporate web development background. Before that, I was doing all sorts of weird stuff like homeland security and embedded development. Yeah, so let's talk about Swarm APIs. So basically, in the last year, as you all know, the team has been working on the network rewrite, and a lot of things changed. There's schemes that were added to our Bzz protocol suite, and yeah, so quite a lot changed. We introduced encryption implementation not so long ago. No? So yeah, we introduced the encryption lately, so in the last few weeks. It uses counter mode encryption, and it has, you could distinguish the results of encrypted content by double length references, which are different from our current, which are double length in comparison to the existing references that you would get normally from Swarm, from unencrypted uploads. So yeah, it has, it's on the CLI and HTTP implementations. And the thing you should know at the moment about our encryption is that it is non-deterministic and non-idempotent as of such, because we generate random encryption keys. So if you upload the same content, basically, you would get different hashes, different references. Yeah, so it's supported through using Bzz raw or normal Bzz/encrypt when you upload, or using the encrypt flag when you're uploading from a CLI. Yeah, so we have a year ago, so we had just Bzz, Bzz raw, and Bzz immutable, but these days we have 3 more basically schemes that are supported through the Bzz suite. So we have list, hash, and resource. So I would yeah, walk through the existing schemes and a bit about the new ones. So the Bzz suite, basically you can walk through manifests and retrieve metadata about files, and yeah, so this is the most basic scheme, and you can also transparently get content which is behind manifests, because manifests have a sort of like a default path behind them. We will see that in a bit. Yeah, Bzz raw is about working directly with content and manifests, but when you want to actually display them correctly in the browser, so you would need a sort of a MIME detection, which is configured on the manifests. And so we have Bzz list, which is a scheme which allows you to actually list content which is inside manifests. And traverse manifest trees. And you could also retrieve metadata about files through it. And Bzz hash is meant to actually do ENS resolutions and retrieve hashes which are pointed to by the ENS records. Bzz resources are mutable resource updates, and they allow you to actually register content which regularly updates on Swarm, and issue resource updates to these resources. We're still ironing out this feature, so yeah. But I will show you a walkthrough through most of these. So quick one, just so you would. How many of you actually work with the Bzz suite, know a bit about the APIs? Please lift your hands. Okay, so I guess there's no objection. I show a little bit. So yeah, okay, this will be a bit tricky, but okay. So Swarm gateways. Yeah. So for example, of usage of Bzz to just, if you would do this swarm death. Oh, this is the redirect, sorry. So this is the Swarm website, basically, on the that sits on Swarm gateways on Swarm. This is what you get when you see get the website through Bzz on your browser. If you would like to see the manifest behind it, for example, it looks something like this. So common prefixes would be the directories, and entries would be the actual entries inside the manifest, the files.
Maybe make your page a bit bigger and show.
Yeah. So this is the manifest. That's how a manifest looks like. This is, of course, using JSON. You could actually render it also as HTML. And, for example, Bzz hash would show the actual, like the hash that is pointed to by the ENS record. So that would be this. You could also get the hash of a certain file, which is pointed to. So this is, yeah. What else did we have? So, yeah. So basically, these are the schemes that we support. And with Bzz raw, you would actually also see, no screen, sorry. Bzz raw. Still nothing here. So with Bzz raw, you would, you get the raw content behind a file, or, for example, also this would actually point to the manifest, so you get the manifest directly. So, yeah, there are different use cases for each one of these schemes, and I hope that we could, in the afternoon, maybe, if you would like to try it out, and to give feedback also and ask questions about how to use each one of the schemes, and I would be happy to assist if somebody wants to do some hacking and to try out some examples. Yeah, so, yeah, sorry. So back to our presentation. So we deprecated a couple of things. HTTP puts are deprecated now. And certain CLI flags are deprecated. We renamed Bzz R and I to Bzz raw and immutable, respectively. Yeah, and you could expect in the upcoming period to have Fuse integration directly with the CLI, so you don't have to go through actually working with it through the JSON RPC, which would make things a bit easier. And we're still ironing out some discrepancies that we have in HTTP API, but it will be more coherent, I guess, in the upcoming weeks. Yeah, so integrating, you should, when you integrate with Swarm, you should prefer HTTP API, for sure, for the basic I/O that when you get and put content on Swarm. And but for sure that the RPC API is also available for whatever needs you have. PSS is right now supported only through RPC, and swap, swear, and swindle will be available also through RPC. So, yeah. And so to touch a few points about how you could actually run a Swarm node. So you have a few possibilities. One of them is to run a participating node on the mainnet or testnet. That might require bootstrapping it with known addresses, which is all in the documentation. We which was actually revamped, and I will show you in a bit. You have also singleton mode if you want just for local development, just to test out stuff. So it's also fully documented on how to actually do all of this. And the Docker container, you can run a single container naturally. You can just build the container and run it, or you can run a fully fledged swarm with Janosch's repository, which is on this address. I will also make sure that this presentation gets to you at the end of the day, but that you can actually get to these resources. But Janosch built a Terraform script that actually brings a fully fledged swarm, and you can choose how to run it. So that really helps if you want to simulate your own swarm. And there is lying somewhere a light PSS client for Android, but we need to get in touch with the guys from the Ethereum Foundation in Berlin to actually get to it. But it is somewhere, and we have a branch of Swarm which actually supports this. So more info on this later on. Yeah, so basically we are on the roadmap. So for POC4, we are working on enriching our manifest with more data, which is more developer facing, so you could actually utilize this much better and have more possibilities to make out more from what we have on Swarm, basically. So this is very important, and we're really working on this. There's more things to come, like access control and erasure coding, which will be as part of the POC4. And yeah, also as part of POC4, so we aim to really standardize and make our suite of protocols much more solid and robust, so that people can really build and rely on these protocols and integrate them. They will be integrated also into Mist and into ENS as part of the infrastructure. So you could expect much more ease of use and higher level of integration. Yeah, so I guess that's more or less it. If you have any comments on our documentation, which I actually wanted to show you. Yeah, this one right here. So you can access the documentation on, I keep on losing the screen. You can access a new documentation draft at this address. So would be nice if you can have a look and also work with it when you actually try out the new release candidate. And I hope this will be happening in the next couple of days.
This is the documentation for the Swarm that we talked about in the Ethersphere branch. So this is not yet published because it's not yet the documentation for what's on the Ethereum repo.
Yeah. So it's,
this is what's running on the test cluster that you're playing with.
So yeah, would be really happy to hear what you think about also the documentation and how it actually, how much coherent it is with your experience with setting up a Swarm node if you haven't run one before, so that would be really helpful. Regardless, we are very much open to whatever you have to, if you have any feedback about our APIs and how you would actually like to see them, if you find any discrepancies or points where you think you could do better. So yeah, we're actually really open to hear that, so you can get in touch. Yeah, and regardless, we're working on a lot of things to actually make the experience much better in any sense of usage. So if it's through CLI, HTTP, so there's a lot more to come there. Yeah, and so that's more or less it, I guess. If you have any questions.